On a cold December night in 1975, the Lutz family moved into their dream home on Long Island, blissfully unaware that their new address was a portal to unimaginable horror. What they don't know is that the house was the site of a horrific mass murder a year before. They decide to keep the house and attempt to keep the horror in the past, but are now haunted by a murderous presence. This is until George starts to behave weirdly and their daughter, Chelsea, starts to see people. What follows is 28 days of sheer, unbridled terror for the family, with demonic visions of the dead. Based on the true story of George and Kathy Lutz, the Amityville Horror remains one of the most horrifying haunted house stories ever told, because it actually happened. Late 1975, George and Kathy Lutz of Deer Park, New York, recently married, this marriage her second following the death of her first husband. In part to start a new life with her 3 children, Billy, Michael and Chelsea, especially as George tries to eke out his place in their life, which is not to replace the memory of their father. George and Kathy want to buy another house in which they will live, they with a financial hurdle as George builds his contracting business. In nearby Amityville, they find what they consider the perfect waterfront colonial, which they are surprised is just within their price range. After falling in love with the house, they learn that the reason for the low asking price is that 1 year previous, the former owners, the DeFeos, were murdered in the house. With this information in hand, they proceed to buy the house anyway, with George planning to turn the basement into an office for his business. Before buying the house, they are unaware of the details of the murder, where 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. had moved back in with his family, he living in the basement. He progressively began to feel possessed when finally on his 28th day in the house, he killed his parents and 4 siblings in the middle of the night, hearing voices telling him to kill them. After the Lutzes move into the house, some of the family members begin to see visions and have hallucinations, none of them telling the others for one reason or another. Slowly, the forces within the house start to consume them to various degrees where they know that something is not quite right. The questions become if they will figure out that there is a force overtaking them before they are no longer able to get away, or if they are doomed to the same fate as the DeFeos on day 28 of their residence. If the latter be the case, there will be the next Ronald DeFeo Jr., who will be the one of who the rest of the family needs to be wary. One silent year after the grisly DeFeo murders in the haunted house at 112 Ocean Avenue, the newly married couple, George and Kathy Lutz, and their 3 children move into their new residence, the low-priced Amityville mansion. Now, the happy family dreams of a better future. However, right from the start, disturbing supernatural occurrences blemish the Lutzes' hope for a fresh start, and if that weren't enough, their daughter, Chelsea, has a mysterious new imaginary friend. More and more, George's personality becomes unstable, and not even the Catholic priest, Father Calloway, can bless the always cold home. Is the cursed Amityville house trying to claim the Lutzes' souls? George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, are moving into an elegant Long Island house. What they don't know is that 6 gruesome murders were committed there the year before. Ronald DeFeo Jr., the oldest son in the family, murdered his parents, his 2 brothers and 2 sisters by shooting them with a .35 caliber in November 1974. No sooner are the Lutz moved into the house than they begin seeing horrible things. The ghost of Jody DeFeo, horribly disfigured bodies, and hearing ghostly voices throughout the house. George seems to notice it the most, and it isn't long before he becomes a danger to those around him. When the local priest called in to bless the house comes charging out in horror after being swarmed by flies, he issues a dire warning to Kathy. Leave that house. But will they be able to escape before the house and its vengeful spirits take control of George and make him into a deadly menace? On November 14, 1974, police received a frantic phone call that led them to the DeFeo residence, where they made a grisly discovery. 6 bodies, the entire DeFeo family, all slaughtered with a .35 caliber as they slept calmly in their beds. Ronald DeFeo confessed to methodically murdering his parents and 4 siblings and claimed it was the voices that told him to do it. Based on the true story of George and Kathy Lutz, the Amityville Horror remains one of the most horrifying haunted house stories ever told, because it actually happened.